Welcome to our viewers in Nigeria and across the world. Lunchtime Politics begins right now. President Bola Tinubu presides over Federal Executive Council meeting almost 2 months after the last meeting as he swears in more ministers at the State House. The House of Representatives confirms procurement and distribution of vehicles to members, but says they are utility operational vehicles and not for personal use. Governor Obasani and the PDP governorship candidate Isa Ashiru in Kaduna State both head to the appeal court. Governor Sani is asking that the alternative judgment be upturned, while Mr. Ashiru is asking that Governor Sani's election be upturned. We'll begin at the presidential villa this afternoon, where President Bola Tinubu is presiding over the FEC meeting after a long break. At the meeting, the president is expected to, amongst other things, swear in the 3 new ministers recently confirmed by the Senate. They are Balarabe Lawal from Kaduna State, Ayodele Olawande from Ondo, and Jamila Ibrahim Bio from Kwara State. Today's meeting is the second since President Tinubu's inauguration as president on May the 29th, and it comes after a 48-day hiatus. The last meeting, in fact, the inaugural FEC meeting held on August the 28th. I will bring you more updates on this as it unfolds. But let's tell you about Vice President Kashim Shettima, who earlier today arrived in Beijing, where he's representing President Bola Tinubu at the Third Belt and Road Initiative Forum. He will be joining world leaders from over 130 countries in Africa, Asia, Europe, and Latin America at the forum to deliberate areas of cooperation for development, and is expected to use the forum to woo investors for more developmental projects in Nigeria. He was received at the Beijing International Airport by the Vice Chairman of a Standing Committee of the Beijing Municipal People's Congress, Mr. Li Yingjin, and the Deputy Director of the African Affairs Department of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He's also billed to hold bilateral meetings with other world leaders to promote the country's trade and investment relations in line with the economic development agenda of the Tinubu administration. Other stories, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, has waded into the debate, and call it controversy, surrounding the appointment of a new chairman for the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Olaolukoide. According to the human rights lawyer, there is no legal ground to disqualify the new EFCC boss from heading the anti-corruption agency. He, however, faulted the decision by the president on the ground that he failed to abide by the principle of federal character in the appointment of the heads of the EFCC and ICPC. He made his views known on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily.
The only issue that has been raised, which for me has to be considered by the government, is that we have in this country the Federal Character Commission Act, and also by virtue of Section 14 of the Constitution, appointments must reflect federal character. So if you are going to have, you have the EFCC and the ICPC, the heads cannot come from the same zone. So if there are 2 positions in this country, in the public service, one must go to the north, one must come to the south. If there are 4, 2 must go to this north, 2 must come to the south. If there are 6, 1 must go to each geopolitical zone. That is the law in Nigeria today. So I am not comfortable with the fact as of today, the heads of the EFCC and the ICPC are from the same zone. Apart from that, Mr. Olukoide is eminently qualified to head the EFCC. My colleagues who have criticized the appointment have not looked at the laws, the relevant law, the relevant provision of the EFCC, which is Section 2, which provides that the chairman, right, must be at least an assistant commissioner of police or its equivalent in the security service or in a law enforcement agency. When Mr. Abdurrashid Bawa was appointed, there were people saying, no, this position is for police officers. And I said, no. If you had served in a law enforcement agency, you are qualified and you have acquired enough experience. You are qualified to head the EFCC.
So let's take a look at what the Act says about the chairmanship position. So take a look at it. It says that the commission shall consist of the following members. A chairman who shall be a serving or retired member of any government, security or law enforcement agency not below the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police or equivalent, and possess not less than 15 years cognate experience. So that's what the Act says. We'll see what comes out of this, particularly because the Senate has a major role to play in all of this. And speaking of the National Assembly, let's head there now, where there have been reports of members of the National Assembly taking delivery of brand new SUVs. Well, the House of Representatives has actually been defending the decision, which it says that is to ensure that government interventions, programs and policies are effectively carried out no matter where Nigerian citizens reside. A spokesperson of the House, Mr. Akin Rotimi, in a statement said that it is a tradition of the National Assembly to procure utility vehicles for members. Now, take a look at part of a statement which he released much earlier. It says that the vehicles to be allocated to the offices of honorable members are utility operational vehicles tied to their oversight functions in the discharge of their duties in the standing committees. Goes on to say they are not personal vehicles gifted to the honorable members. In that statement, he also added that the percentage of the component of the legislature's budget as part of the national budget has been on a downward trend over the past decade, and it currently stands at 0.5% of the total. Yet another controversial conversation, a topic that gets Nigerians talking. So let's get deeper into this, because there's a component of the budget in this. How are our funds used? Are they used the right way? Is this, I mean, the House said it's for their job anyway. So is this in order? Well, let's speak to a man who is part of an organization that takes a look at government budgets, how funds are allocated, whether or not they're used in the right way. We're joined in our studio this afternoon by Mr. Gabriel Okeowo, who's a country director of budgets. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much, Kayode.
It looks like this report comes every 4 years. With every National Assembly, you have to battle this debate to get new vehicles for the members or not. With this recent one, particularly the statement by the spokesperson of the House, you've seen the numbers. You know where Nigeria is. You know where the funds are going to. What do you make of this?
Sure. It's like you mentioned, it's like this is a recurring conversation that happens every 4 years. Every new assembly, there is always this bogus, budgeting to buying utility vehicles or changing their wardrobes. In this time around, we even have, there is still another about 30 billion that was so-called allocated to inauguration-related activities. And why we always take the conversation that pertain to National Assembly very personal is because when we look at the 3 tiers of government, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislators, right? We take it personal because in the midst of all of these 3, and when we say democracy is a government of the people we are talking about there are those that are representing us, those in the National Assembly.
And it ought not to be.
And because so when we and it's easy for us to just subject this recent news to the 500 billion palliative that was recently rolled out. And if as many people have seen in online, there are communities of more than 100 households that are getting 10 kg bag of rice, right, as a palliative from federal government. And then in the same situation, we are then seeing a representative of these people, you know, wanting to, or already taking, because they're already taking delivery of SUVs in the hundreds of millions.
Mr. Okel, let's take a moment now on the program. We need to take a break now. We're due for a break. When we return, we'll go deeper into this. It's a major conversation. We need all of Nigerians on this one. Stay with us right here on Lunchtime Politics. I will be back. Welcome back to the program. Let's continue with our conversation. Mr. Gabriel Okewo is right here with us as Country Director of Budget, and we'll be talking about the recent procurement of utility vehicles for members of the National Assembly. So you were making that point, and looking through the statement which was released by the House spokesman, some say, well, commend the House for owning up to this, even though the news was out there already anyway, so there was nothing to hide. But it is said that this is a common practice, and I think you mentioned the different arms of government, and it said here that, well, it happens in the executive anyway. They have the heads of agencies, departments, all getting vehicles. So why is it different for the National Assembly? And he made that point, talking about the percentage of their own budget to the national budget, saying at this point it is 0.5%. So he's saying it's been on a decline. And it says, notwithstanding inflation and the rest, this is your forte. Your thoughts?
You see, it's an easy way out for National Assembly to reduce the percentage of their budget to the overall size of Nigerian budgets, right? But let's take National Assembly for National Assembly.
Right.
First, what is the function of National Assembly? Coming into the House, you are coming there to represent a certain number or constituency of people. First, that is the first thing we need to establish, right? And then, whatever you are going to be doing in the House, it requires a sort of moral justification. And like I used to do when illustration I used to give when we teach civic education, when we take judiciary, legislators, and executive, I usually ask the question when I'm taking that class, that among these three arms of government, who is the most powerful, right? And then we'll narrow it down to the legislators in the National Assembly. They are the most powerful. Why? They are because they can remove the executive, right? They can impeach the president. The president can remove the judiciary, but either the executive or the judiciary cannot arbitrarily remove the National Assembly. So that makes them powerful. And we are very particular on them because if they are that powerful, then it brings us to the common saying that he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. If you can get your own house clean, you will have a moral justification to then hold the executive to account. But in a situation where your hand is already soiled with all of these, bogus and very unreasonable, allowances and privileges, it will be difficult for you to then say you want to hold the executive to account. And this thing is about, so one of the part of the statement that the spokesperson of the House mentioned was that the vehicles are not the properties of the members, that it is the property of National Assembly. And the question is, I have not seen, but I would love to see if he had made reference to at any time in either the past assembly night, 8th, 7th, where they left their tenure ended, and we saw that those vehicles were returned and the new assembly
use those vehicles
to use.
Let's wind down with this one, because it is said that it is meant to aid their work. It said it's operational vehicles, and they need to do that work no matter where the work takes them to.
I'd like to speak to that.
So they said that at the end of the day, they have the option to buy back those vehicles at whatever cost is reflected. So what option is available for them right now? Well, the vehicles are being procured anyway, and it's being distributed.
And that is what is really saddening. It's really saddening because even that statement that it is utility vehicles to get to anywhere, the statement read anywhere that there is Nigerians, the vehicle can get to. And the question is, how many we see them come around, to some places they go for oversight function. How many times have they driven those vehicles there? How many of them sitting in Abuja will have an oversight function to go and do in Benue that is close to Abuja and drive there? Most of the time, they still don't drive. It's either they are using a bus that is moving all of them, or for one representing Ogun State or representing Oyo State, are they telling me that they are going to be driving those vehicles to reduce overhead on travel to Ibadan or to Abuja or to local? No, they don't do that. So those are just very baseless excuses. What we need is, Nigerian situation keep getting worse, as I would say it, and it looks as if we have seen it all. Like this is going to be like the worst of it. At this point, government must also take some actions to show that really the condition is critical. But it is only on the part of the citizen we are seeing that Nigerian situation is critical. On the part of the government, absolutely nothing is changing,
and that's what
is very sad.
To ensure that things don't get worse, we'll keep doing our work, advocacy, journalism, to ensure these issues are raised. But we'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Gabriel Okewo, Country Director of Budget. We hope that this sparks a bigger conversation out there for Nigerians. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kayode.
Let's head over to Bayelsa State. Now, we're counting down to that off-cycle election, and the resident electoral commissioner in the state says the stage is set for the November 11th election. Mr. Oboefanga explains that all staff have been trained, and the state will explore all avenues to ensure free, fair, and credible polls. He spoke on our political program, Sunday Politics.
IREV was first used in 2020 by INEC. It is the INEC results viewing portal. It's a portal where polling unit results are uploaded. Photographs of the polling unit results are uploaded. INEC has been doing that since 2020 and will continue to do that. For every of our elections, you always have fresh trainings and retrainings. So the people who are going to be involved in this election would undergo a series of trainings at different levels. We even have training the night before the election also, apart from the previous trainings they would have received. And so we don't expect that there will be much of a problem with the use of the beavers. So I would look forward to having an election that is well conducted and the results are uploaded to the portal and winners emerge through this process. So I do not entertain any fears concerning that.
Well, let's turn our attention to Kebbi State. Well, it's nicknamed Land of Equity, created out of then Sokoto on August 27th, 1991 by the government of General Ibrahim Babangida. But the state, so much potential, has been faced with some challenges. We've had success stories, and this afternoon we'll be turning our attention to Kebbi State as we are joined in our Lagos studio by the State's Commissioner for Information, Mr. Ahmed Yakubu, joins us live.
Thank you.
It's good to have you. I mean, in Lagos,
my pleasure, yeah.
We usually see you in Kebbi State, but now we have you in Lagos. And we would just like to begin with security in Kebbi State. A lot of people remember last year, very challenging year for Kebbi. We had the vigilantes slaughtered, over 60 of them, Yansakai. It was a very bad situation. We've had cases of kidnapping just of recent as well. So let's speak to this because security is a major topic in Nigeria. How is the governor handling or grappling with security in Kebbi State as it is now?
Thank you. I'll begin by saying that insecurity as a whole is a world phenomenon. Kebbi State is one of the northwestern states that has been grappling with it. But recently, since the present governor came into office, I'm talking about Governor of Kebbi State, Dr. Nasri Idris, we have witnessed the ability of the terrorists to rear their heads as they used to in the past. If you remember, in the past, before this government, we've had situations where it's like a weekly occurrence. Every now and then, you see the governor going on condolence visits. Since this governor came, measures have been taken that have proved to be worthy of being taken. And you'll agree with me that the situation has reduced drastically. It's all as a result of measures taken by the government in collaboration with several layers of security agencies. I'm talking about the army, the police, civil defense, DSS, the hunters, and vigilante groups. Specifically, I will make reference to the decisions taken by the governor to ensure that there have been increase in deployments of security personnel on special operations. Currently in Kebbi State, we have about 8 flash points that have been monitored where security men have been deployed currently. And this decision, plus other decisions taken by the governor to be proactive in taking decisions, have drastically reduced occurrences of attacks in Kebbi State.
So you talked about the governor, deploying at the forefront of this fight against insecurity in Kebbi State. But I recently had a conversation with the governor of Kaduna State, and he was quite peeved about the fact that on paper, governors are chief security officers. In fact, he was in the National Assembly as well, and he told me that, well, it's just on paper. We don't have as much power. So it's quite interesting to hear you talk about your governor, Nasir Idris, and how he's at the forefront. So is it that he's doing something different? Does he have more powers than other governors who say, well, we cannot necessarily make orders. We can give those orders. Yes, we can try, but at the end of the day, it comes from the federal.
In the case of Kebbi, I would rather not talk about situations in other states. But in the case of Kebbi State, honestly speaking, the governor has been up and doing, and it's as a result of his being proactive they are witnessing the good things we're talking about. I would like to talk about the issue of helping out the security agencies in the state, not necessarily with just logistics. My governor has been able to do quite a lot in that regard. All the flashpoints in Kebbi State, as I said, have deployments now. And as we talk today, most of the victims of bandit attacks in the neighboring states from Kebbi, Niger State, Zamfara State, Sokoto State, I can tell you there is an influx of victims from these states into Kebbi State. And one of the things I would like us to look out for is the bumper harvest we are expecting in Kebbi, part of the Kebbi, where this insurgency is taking place.
What do you mean by bumper harvest?
Bumper harvest will be able to stop the attacks on our farmers, thereby disallowing them to farm on their farms. We're being able to ensure that the farming activities have taken place everywhere in Kebbi State, with the added advantage of our governor's magnanimity of giving fertilizer free of charge to farmers, free to most of our farmers in Kebbi State, and the recent distribution of palliatives, about 210 trucks of assorted grains, rice, and millet. And as I said earlier, with the ability of the security agencies to nip most of these attacks into the bud, I can assure you that Kebbi is going to experience bumper harvest this year as a result of these actions taken by our governor.
Well, there's so much to talk about Kebbi State, really, because for a lot of people, they still don't quite know Kebbi State, and they know about the rice, maybe, but perhaps not.
Let me tell you something about Kebbi State. Kebbi State is potential Nigeria's food basket.
Well, you've talked about the bumper harvest, right?
Yeah. Let me tell you just an addition to that.
So we have to wind down.
River Niger crisscrossed into Kebbi by almost 100 kilometers. River Rima crisscrossed into Kebbi by about 240 kilometers. There's a river we call River Car, Bulbin Car, snaked into Kebbi by about over 200 kilometers. In Kebbi State, we have no business with poverty, ordinarily. What we lacked, perhaps, was the leadership. Now we have a governor that was born, bred and buttered in Kebbi. He has been on top of compassion given out to people since before he became governor. He's rooted in the Kebbi establishment, and he's doing quite a lot in trying to develop infrastructure, develop capacity, empowerment.
I know in the coming days we'll have a sit down with the governor himself where we can raise these issues. Now there will be a lot of attention on Kebbi State, and of course, I imagine the state deserves all that. But we'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed Yakubu, Commissioner.
I have a few other things to say.
So this is what we'll do. We'll continue this conversation some other time, either with you or His Excellency. But certainly Kebbi State is a state to watch out for. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Ahmed
Next time,
Yakubu, Kebbi State Commissioner for Information. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Oh, well, time is always a challenge, but let's go over to Imo State. Ahead of the November 11 governorship election, some leaders of Umumchi community in Isialambano local government area of the state have declared their total support to the governorship bid of the candidate of the PDP, Senator Samuel Anyanwu. Well, the leaders promised to vote massively for the party in the coming election, and that declaration was made when he visited the community on a campaign ahead of the November elections. He's asking the people to support his candidature and vote massively for him in the election.
Myself and Jose is coming to develop Okigwe zone. The only surest way Okigwe zone will go back to government house is by allowing a man to come on board. If you allow at this present administration the charter of equity of Oluzon have done 20 years, Okigwe just 4 years. But what Oluzon have not done 1 year, who must go to equity must go with clean hands. So Okigwe and Oluzon must come together. That is why I want to thank Oganiwo Okigwe for this show of solidarity. What it means, if by January 15th, when myself and Jose will be sworn in as governor and deputy governor of Imo State, we will spend our 8 years, we will hand over to Okigwe. Because that will be the turn. That is the real equity.
And now to Kaduna State, where Governor Abbas Sani and the candidate, who was candidate, of course, of the APC in that 2023 governorship election in the state, has filed a cross-appeal at the Court of Appeal sitting in the state capital, asking it to reverse the controversial alternative ruling of the governorship election tribunal ordering a supplementary election in the state. Despite emerging victorious from the main ruling of the tribunal delivered on September the 20th, the governor is contesting the alternative majority ruling of 2 against 1, which created a path for the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Issa Ashiru, to claim victory. Meanwhile, in his appeal filed to the Court of Appeal, Mr. Ashiru provided 24 grounds to overturn the dismissal of his petition. He's also seeking an order of the higher courts to invalidate Governor Sani's victory. The cross-appeal was filed by Governor Sani's legal team, led by a former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Chief Bayo Ojo. According to Mr. Ojo, the tribunal threw the political space into a spin when, in double majority decisions, dismissed Mr. Ashiru's petition for fatal non-compliance with regulating laws. Well, there you have it. That's the program for this afternoon. We're back with more political stories for you tomorrow. I'm Kayode Kikiolu. Goodbye.